Big Value, Big Business Podcast, Episode 10.
Welcome to the Big Value, Big Business Podcast with James Lynch, where we talk with today's most successful marketing minds about getting the right message in front of the right people and getting the right people to become your customers for life. And now, your host, James Lynch.
All right, welcome back, my friends, to yet another edition of the Big Value, Big Business Podcast. I am your host, James Lynch. I am really big time super excited about my very special guest today. His name is Mr. Pat Flynn. Pat comes to us from smartpassiveincome.com, which is all about discovering smart ways to live a passive income lifestyle on the internet. Basically, using systems of automation to do most of the heavy lifting, so we don't have to trade time for money, but rather use our time to create awesome products and experiences. Pat is an entrepreneur, popular keynote speaker, and a devout family man. Let's say hello to Mr. Pat Flynn. Pat, how the heck are you today, sir?
I'm doing amazing, James. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
No, thank you, sir. I know you're a busy guy, and just to have you for a little while, I am totally honored. Right up front, I want to say you have had a huge influence on being both an inspiration and the motivation for me to start BigValueBigBusiness.com. And I want to say thank you for everything that you've done for the online marketing community at large. You're awesome.
That's awesome. Thank you, James. I appreciate that. But you know what? I give the content and I try to motivate, but people still need to take action. So it's really cool to see you actually doing this now, and you have me on your show. You're taking action, and that's really what this is all about. So kudos to you too, James.
Thank you very much. And I'm live on iTunes. I've been approved. Yay!
Woohoo! It's such a good feeling, right? Like I have my third podcast now that I've put onto iTunes, and I still get jazzed when I see that logo up there on the page, you know.
Ask Pat. It's awesome.
Thanks.
All right. So listen, I'm super, to coin a phrase, I'm super stoked for you to share with us.
It's so funny how that's like my phrase now. Like, it's just, I've been saying that forever. I'm from California, so I say stoked a lot. And people are like, that's what, like, people are like, to coin Pat Flynn, I'm stoked. It's so funny that you said that.
No, it's great. And well, I lived in California for a little bit. I had to dust it off a little bit from my ears, but I'm back east. So anyway, listen, I want you to share with us just anything you can about putting together the most awesomest value-driven content, as well as, you know, some of the business and marketing strategies that have made you so successful. So does that sound like a plan?
Yeah, totally. Let's do it.
Cool. Can we start out with a little history? Maybe you can tell us a little bit about who Pat Flynn is, where you came from, and a little bit about your journey that brought you here to Smart Passive Income and where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a really crazy journey, and I'm just so blessed to have ended up where I ended up. But it wasn't all smiles and butterflies in the beginning. It was actually me getting laid off from the architecture industry that started this whole path. And at that time, you know, I was so driven in that industry, and I was doing everything I could to climb that ladder, and I was ready to devote 40 years of my life to the architecture industry. I went to school for 5 years at UC Berkeley for it, and I was just ready for it. And I had landed my dream job after college, and come 2008, I get notice that I'm going to be laid off in about 3 months' time. And that was really hard for me because I didn't know what else to do. I mean, that's all I was doing at the time. And I immediately called everybody I knew in the industry, from structural engineers to electrical engineers, anybody I've ever spoken with, clients, whatever, just trying to get back into that industry because that's what I was comfortable with. But nobody was building anything at the time. Nobody had any money, so nobody was hiring any architects. And so, I kind of had to figure out what to do. Long story short, I discovered this podcast called Internet Business Mastery. And on that podcast, I heard an episode with a guy named Cornelius Fichtner, who was talking about how he was making a living online teaching people how to pass the project management exam, or the PM exam. And he was doing this through a paid podcast and through eBooks that he was writing and things like that. And that's when I had my aha moment, because I actually, when I was still working architecture, I had created a website to help me and a couple coworkers pass the LEED exam, which is an exam that architects and people in that industry take. And after I passed that exam, I just let that site sit there because I had no more use for it. It did its job. But when I heard this podcast, I took that blog that I had, or that resource I created, and I decided to sort of turn it into a business, or see what I could do to help share it with the world. And immediately it turned into very much a success. I saw thousands of people coming to the site every day, which was happening already, and I had no idea. It just happened because I had posted so much information on that website for over a year to help me pass this exam. Other people found it. People shared it, word of mouth, and through Google search. Just it became the resource for people. And I eventually, in October 2008, wrote a study guide, an ebook, very much influenced by Jeremy and Jason from Internet Business Mastery, but also Tim Ferriss, who helped me learn about building these systems of automation in a way where I could deliver this ebook and have people pay for it without me actually having to physically do it myself. Have these systems of automation put into place. Well, that book generated $7,908.55 that month, which was more money than I would see in 2 or 3 months of architecture. And it just blew my mind that this was even possible. And then the next month I made more. And that's when I decided to create Smart Passive Income, because I had no idea this world was possible. And my whole notion of online business beforehand was just, this was a scammy, dirty industry. And here I was doing it, but doing it in a way where I was actually providing value for people. People were choosing to pay me money in exchange for information that would help them. And also beyond that, I would get these incredible lengthy emails of thanks, and I actually got a few handwritten thank you notes from people from the information I provided to help them pass this exam too. And like I said, I created Smart Passive Income to show people that this world existed, and that I didn't want to have other people go through what I went through, a layoff and like a month of depression. I wanted to just share everything that happened to me so other people could see what was possible and possibly create something similar to what I had created. And then over time, the Smart Passive Income blog has just grown like mad, and I've created new businesses publicly on the site, from anything in the security guard industry to iPhone applications, to a resource that I'm building now for the food truck industry. It's just, people love seeing me build these businesses, and sometimes doing things right, and a lot of times doing things wrong. And I love that people follow me for that, because a lot of time, no matter if it's something I do right or something I do wrong, there's always a lesson involved. And as long as I can help other people, that's why I do what I do. And now this site is generating quite a bit of money every month for me as a result of sharing, as an affiliate, products that I've used and that have helped me along the way that other people will use too. And they'll often find or seek out my affiliate link to sort of pay me back for the free information I've given. And over time, that's just what I've learned, is this business model of, you give, you get more back in return. And the more I give, the more I get back. And that's why I always have my audience at the forefront of why I do what I do. And it just seems like the more I help them out, the more I get paid back in return. It's a beautiful thing. And I'm just so blessed. And now I have this podcast, Smart Passive Income Podcast, which I started in 2010, just passed 7 million downloads. It's crazy, like 7 million. Like, to even say that number in context of something that I'm doing is ridiculous. And then I just released a new podcast called Ask Pat, which is now a 5-day-a-week show where I answer a voicemail question from an audience member and feature that question in my answer every day. And just been live for a week, and I'm loving the response so far. 50,000 downloads in a week. It's just it's beautiful things are happening, and I'm just so blessed. And I want to give back even more. And it's just, gosh, I mean, and now I don't know. It's James. It's just like, life is amazing, and the layoff, which was the worst moment of my life, or one of the worst moments of my life, actually ended up turning out to be the best moment, or the best thing that could ever happen.
It is a great story, Pat, and you outline it so eloquently in Let Go, the book that you have. I've listened to it, actually, the audio version. It's fantastic, and folks, that Pat flew through the ups and downs of the situation. He was I believe you were going to get married when the layoff. I mean, you were engaged, and there was just so much there. But you are indeed blessed, my friend, because things just turned around for you, and it's been nothing but up. But I know being a crash test dummy that you self-proclaimed, there had to have been some challenges after the lead exam took off, and you kind of like, I could probably replicate this this whole situation and give people more than what they want, and eventually I'll get paid for it. Tell me about some of the challenges after the lead exam site and going forward. What are some of the bumps in the road for you?
I mean, there were hundreds of bumps. I mean, we could spend the whole
big bumps.
Big bumps. Well, stemming off the success of Green Exam Academy, my fiance got really excited for what was happening, and we decided to create a site together because we were like, oh, we just need to put something up and it'll be successful. And so we came up together with this idea because I kind of wanted to get her involved with some of the stuff I was doing. We had this idea for a website where, and now thinking back, this is like a ridiculous idea, but back then it seemed like a good idea, and it's really cool because we could try it out, and we did, and learn that it wasn't going to work out, and at least we gave it a shot. And I think that's a big lesson in and of itself. But we had wanted to do a site where every day would be sort of a new topic, and then on the one side of the page would be my take on the topic, and the other side of the page would be her take on the topic. So sort of male versus female, man versus wife, or boy versus girl type thing.
Venus and Mars.
Yeah, so I had spent some of the money I earned to hire a developer to create this website, a person to create a WordPress theme that would have this sort of side-by-side layout and a featured topic in the middle, and we got that all built. And then we started to write, and we were like, this is hard. This is hard to write about, and it's hard to come up with new topics. And we started getting into these little fights, and we're like, this is stupid. Like, why are we putting ourselves in this position? Like, it sounded like a good idea until we finally started doing it. And we had spent about $2,000 on this developer on a site that we've never ended up using. We thought the domain was cool. It was going to be called acoupleofthoughts.com, right? Get it? And we went with that, but if we had actually spent time in the beginning before even hiring a developer, before even having a domain name, just trying to write the content that was going to be featured on the site, we would have quickly found out that it just was something that we shouldn't get into. And we would have saved that money. We would have saved that time, the back and forth with the developer. So that's one mistake and one bump in the road. I mean, that's one small thing. A big thing that came up was in 2009 after I was in the sort of 5-figure range with greenexamacademy.com. I had gotten a letter from the United States Green Building Council, which is the company that the organization that administers the LEED exam. Mm-hmm. And it was a letter that basically said, I had just seen, cease and desist and stop what you're doing or else we'll take action. And I freaked out. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting sued. This is not happening. Please. Like, things were going so well. Now I'm going to have no more income. Like, all the worst things were going through my head. And I called a lawyer and obviously that's sucked because I am going to have to spend all this money to talk to them. But I found out, it was good because they told me that, okay, don't worry. They're just telling you shouldn't use lead in your domain name, which I was. And they're not suing you yet, and they're not doing anything, but you basically have 2 weeks to not use that trademark in your domain name. So that was a little bit of a relief, but all these thoughts were coming into my head, like, maybe this should have been so obvious to me. Maybe I'm just not cut out for business. I should just go back to working for somebody else because this is like adult stuff that's happening right now, and I'm not ready for it. But I changed the domain name, and things were going well. I actually just did a redirect from the old domain to the new one, which is Green Exam Academy. Before it was inthelead.com, LEED. Again, I'm pretty creative with these domain names, but they don't always work out. And then a couple weeks later, I get another letter from them saying, "Sorry, we see that you're still using the domain name as a redirect, which is still technically using it. You have to stop." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, these guys are crazy." But I get it, and so because I did what's technically called a 301 redirect, I gave Google enough time to realize that my new domain was going to be the primary one. So I didn't lose any search engine rankings. I didn't lose any keyword or link juice or any of that stuff. And then when I finally had to take down inthelead.com, which if you go to now, it just says site non-existent. it worked out. I mean, it worked out. But again, those thoughts of, this isn't cut out. I'm not cut out for this. That came across my head a lot. Another time I had, my buddy and I, we created an iPhone application company, and that company's done really well. It's earned well over 6 figures in the last 4 years. Really basically creating apps by having other people, outsourcing the creation of those apps. We're not developers, but we come up with ideas and we outsource them to people on Elance, Nodesk, and other developers we found. And that's been working out really well. But I remember when we first started, we got really excited, and we put a job up on Elance for an app we wanted to be developed. This was in 2009. And we were so excited that we, after a day, we saw that there were like 4 developers who expressed interest. And of course, they all share different bids on working with us with that project. And we picked the lowest bidder because we were just like, okay, we're going to go with this person. They said they're going to do it for $800. And let's just go. We want to go now. We want to do it. And then we ended up spending $6,000 over the course of 3 months working with these people, just because they were terrible communicators. They didn't understand what we wanted, and of course we were brand new, so we didn't understand what we needed to have to do to make things happen. We didn't create wireframes or any of that stuff. It was just all back and forth via email, and it turned into things that we didn't want. And that was a huge learning lesson for us. And so down the road, we started to wait longer before selecting developers, actually communicating with them before selecting them to see what that conversation was like, and also looking into their portfolios and seeing the customer feedback and how many repeat clients have they had, those sorts of indicators to tell us whether or not these are people that we should be working with. And we've been very happy with the people we've worked with since then. Gosh, Jay, I can keep going.
I hear you. Those are some valuable lessons. But I really want to hone in on, just for a second, what you talked about the head trash, about I'm not cut out for this. You got all this negative talk, just this one thing. And it's just amazing to know someone that's been so successful like you I get up in the morning and go, do I really want to do this podcast? Am I good enough? Is my voice good enough? And just all this stuff, and you've taught and you've learned, we got to just put one foot in front of the other and just do it. So tell me about how you overcame just that head trash. I don't have another word for it, but
a lot of people call it the resistance. It's like a thing that just comes out of nowhere that tries to stop you in your tracks.
Steve Pressfield.
Steve Pressfield, yeah, the War of Art.
War of Art and Turning Pro, and it's good stuff.
It's a real thing, and you all of you listening, it's there. When you're about to do something that's uncomfortable, that resistance comes into play. When you're about to do something you've never done before, that fear sets in and tries to stop you. And it's more of a way for, it's there as a way for you. It's like a security thing as a human. Like, okay, don't do this. It's dangerous. It might hurt you. And yes, some of those things. Obviously, you don't want to jump off a cliff because you'll hurt yourself or die when you hit the bottom, but that those same sort of feelings come in when you are experimenting with new things in your life. Like when I started my podcast, for example, I doubted whether or not it was something I should continue to do. I actually recorded my first episode 3 times because I wasn't happy with it, and I was just too afraid to put it out there. And gosh, I can't remember who exactly said it to me, and it's been said to me several times by several different people when I get on these blocks. But I at this moment with my podcast, I don't remember exactly who it was. But somebody said to me, or maybe I just remembered somebody saying this to me in the past. They said, don't think about what's going to happen to you. What's going to happen if you don't publish this, or you don't go through with this? What are the consequences of you not doing this? Not just for yourself, but those who could actually benefit from the content that you're going to share. So James, I could say to you, like, okay, you might be scared of your voice, or you might be scared to publish this, but think about the people who can benefit from everything you're sharing here, or the questions that you're asking people that can help them down the road. Are we going to put our own fear and resistance in the way of actually helping other people? And when I think of it that way, I'm like, wow, I got to get over this and just do it. I felt those same feelings when I was getting up on stage for the first time in 2011. That was my very first public speaking appearance at the Financial Blogger Conference in Chicago. Same feelings, probably even more so than in a podcast, because you're actually up live on stage, and I remember specifically thinking these thoughts in my head that, before I got on stage, I actually thought this. I thought that I would get up on stage, maybe fall on my way up, come up with a bloody nose, people would laugh, and then throw tomatoes at me, and I'd run off stage, and I'd cry and just wake up in a ditch naked somewhere. Like, I literally thought that, and it's so stupid when you hear it, but, we think the worst things. I mean, we are our own worst enemy always. And when you ask yourself, okay, well, really, what's the worst that can happen? And I ask myself this all the time because, I've been doing online business and this thing, entrepreneurship stuff for 5 years. I still get that resistance. Those feelings don't go away, but you learn how to control them. You actually learn that resistance is a sign that whatever is on the other end might be something awesome.
Yeah, you say whenever you're working, pressing the limits of your comfort zone, that usually means that you're going to experience a breakthrough.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, you have to take risks and bold actions in order to get big results. You could just work to stay busy and do whatever you're comfortable doing.
Status quo.
Yeah, but you're not going to get those results that you ultimately want if you don't take those big risks or that bold action or get uncomfortable. And I always ask myself, well, what's the worst that can happen to you? And when I am realistic about that answer, it's typically not as crazy as what I initially thought, like waking up naked in a ditch somewhere. Usually it's just like, okay, maybe I'll forget something and people might say, oh, well, that wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. And that's it. I mean, that's not as bad as I initially thought. And then based on that realistic sort of potential outcome as far as what might be negative, well, then I can figure out what I need to do to make that not happen. I can rehearse more. I can work on a better closing statement so people remember that more than anything else. I could actually take action that is going to help me get to where I want to go instead of just thinking the worst things possible and being stuck.
That's good stuff, my friend. Good stuff. And I'm going to say another thing that I heard you say. When you're on stage, when you are, no one wants to see you fail. Nobody wants to see you fail. For someone that's public speaking, they want you to do a good job. They don't want to be there and be bored or be disappointed. When you get up on stage, people want you to succeed.
Yeah, they want you to do well. They want to be entertained.
Sure.
They want you to do well because that means they're going to have fun and learn stuff too. And that was, I love that you brought that up because I have to remind myself of that too. Like, they're not your enemy. Your audience isn't your enemy. They are there to support you.
Absolutely. And tell me about present day. What is your current value proposition? You gave us kind of a peek behind the curtain about giving more and expecting little and just take care of them and you'll get yours kind of thing. But in your own words, what if you could put it in as succinctly as you could, just the smart passive income Pat Flynn value proposition?
Yeah, I mean, if you can, I mean, there's a number of things that go along with it. Obviously, I try to do what I can to be personable and to share things about myself that'll help me connect with my audience. People, when they send me emails, they always say, "Hey, Pat, Pat this, Pat that." When I go to conferences, people talk to me as if we've been friends for a long time already. Even though I don't know their name, it's because I'm on a podcast and they hear my voice and they understand that, I'm more than just a person delivering content. I'm Pat Flynn. I'm me, and so I share me a lot. I share about my family and what I do during the day and things I like, things I don't like, that I'm scared of spiders and, just random stuff that it has nothing to do with building an online business, but everything to do with building a relationship with my audience. And that's what's most important to me is building that relationship with my audience. And that doesn't happen if I'm selling something the first time I meet somebody. So any sort of experience people have on my site, it's I'm giving. I'm doing what I can to help solve a problem or provide a potential solution for an issue that somebody might have. And I know that if I can provide that solution, even if it's a little quick win, and more importantly, I mean, you want to provide your audience with quick wins because it's those quick wins that help train their brain to understand that that's a place to go to for solutions, and that's when they can then get into bigger transactions with you in the future, not just monetary transactions, but something like, okay, they read a blog post, you've helped them get more engagement on Facebook by doing this one little trick. Well, that worked. I'm going to go back for more. Maybe I'll subscribe to the email list and I'll read more and maybe more things will work out and you'll help me even more. And then I'm going to buy something from you down the road. I mean, so if you can give away quick wins, those instant results, it's like the first level of Angry Birds. And a lot of people don't remember what the first level is like, but that first level was the start of an addiction that people still have, you know, and it's that small win. If you go back, you have 3 red birds and 1 bad piggy at the top of this tower. You hit any part of this tower, it's going to fall. Like, you're going to win. It's the worst architecture I've ever seen. But those guys know that, you know, it's that first level, and you want people to understand what it's like to win and to feel like they've achieved something. So do that for your audience. Help them achieve something fast.
I love that. Low barrier to entry kind of thing.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why I got addicted to the game World of Warcraft, because, you know, you level up really fast at the beginning and you get cool things, you unlock cool abilities and things, and then you just are addicted. And that's why I spent 3 months of my life in college playing that game 24/7.
Oh, I love it. Awesome. That's great. I love little wins, and you're always giving so much. Tell me, Pat, taking a look at yourself, have you made it, dude? Do you feel like you've made it, or?
I mean, I feel like I do. I mean, because I always compare myself to that Pat Flynn that would have not got laid off and what I would have been doing instead. And, you know, I'm pretty sure I'd still be happy. I'd be doing something I went to school for, and I love that industry. That's one of the unique things about my story is I didn't want to leave my job. I got forced out of it. And you know, thinking about how it would have been if I didn't get laid off, I wouldn't have gone down this path. Even if I had the opportunity to, because I think it was getting laid off and not having any other options that forced me to go down this path and actually do things that I wouldn't normally do, take risks that I really would never take before. So I think that's an important lesson in and of itself. But, you know, thinking about the Pat Flynn who didn't get laid off, I'd still be happy. I'd still be working really hard and progressing in whatever I was doing. But I don't think I would be able to spend as much time with my kids. I don't think I would have been able to, have as much flexibility with my schedule and be able to do things that are helpful for the family. Like, you know, we go to Target at like 3 p.m. when nobody's there.
Love it.
Parking is easy, you know, and nobody's there. There's no lines, and we could save even more time. And, just having, I mean, it's not the idea of going to Target at 3 p.m. It's the idea of the flexible schedule where I can, live how I want to live and be happy. And I think like I said, I would have been happy, but I wouldn't have known what it would have been like to be this happy. So yes, I think I've made it, but I don't like to say that because that means that I can stop. I don't want to stop, or I don't want to potentially think to myself that I could stop. And I mean, I know I could, and things are going really well, but I don't want to. I don't want to be that selfish and not be able to help others who are in need.
And I set you up for that, and I didn't have it rehearsed, but I did because I know you won't stop, Pat Flynn. You won't, because there's always you're always expanding your reach.
I mean, who knows who could benefit from the podcast I record tomorrow? You know, who knows what that could create for me too. I mean, you never know what can happen with the content that you create. You never know who's on the other side, listening to it or watching it. And I'll tell you a quick story. There's a guy named Michael from Poland. He sent me this incredibly long email, and he told me the story about how he used to be a huge risk taker and would go do these extreme sports. And one time he took a jump off a ramp snowboarding and crushed both of his legs, like couldn't use his legs anymore. And so he really felt depressed. He couldn't provide for his family, couldn't go to work, and it just felt like dead weight to everybody around him. And then he had some time, and he discovered my podcast through iTunes. And he heard a podcast episode where I started talking about setting huge goals that seem almost impossible. And then chunking those goals or breaking those goals down into little milestones to help you achieve what almost is the impossible. And so he decided to create a goal for himself to run a marathon. Both of his legs were broken, but he's like, I'm going to run a marathon. So he went through physical therapy. He listened to my podcast every day for inspiration. He said, this is in his email, and just my jaw was like open when I was reading this. And then all of a sudden at the end of the email, there was this image that was attached of him running, crossing the finish line at the Warsaw Marathon, holding a sign up that said thank you. It was like a huge banner. He was using both hands to hold it up. He had it rolled up in his pocket the whole time, and it said thank you to his family, thank you God, and thank you Pat Flynn. And my eyes were just red. I was tearing up, and I was like, I can't even describe how I felt when I was reading this. But the point of this story is to share that, like, I didn't know this guy was listening to my podcast. I didn't know that he was getting inspiration from me. He was on the other side of the world. I never heard of him before, but here I was getting this email. He had followed me for like 10 months, and this happened. I had no idea until he told me. So you have no idea who's on the other end and who could benefit from what you have to share. And that's why you just have to keep going, I think.
That was heavy duty, man.
It always gets me, a little emotional when I tell that story. And because I visualize that image that I see, and I have it obviously in my computer. And whenever I'm down and whenever I'm just like frustrated with my work and stuff, or something's not working out, I look at that and I'm like, dude, I have nothing to complain about right now.
Wow. I want to talk to you about business resources, specifically networks and masterminds, and tell me your thoughts, checking in with someone. What do you think?
Probably the most important thing in the world if you want to succeed. I mean, you ask any successful entrepreneur if they did it all on their own. If they're honest with you, they would all say no. Like, they've all had some type of help or some type of group or person to hold them accountable and to push them forward. Because the journey of an entrepreneur is not always a happy thing, and there's times when you're going to want to quit, where that resistance comes into play. And a lot of times for me, when that resistance comes into play, I go to my mastermind groups. I'm in 3 different mastermind groups right now. We all meet each week via Skype. I mean, they're not in person either. They're all done via Skype or free conference call or Google Hangout. And we meet every week, and the way it's structured is we start off the call. It's an hour call. We start off the call going one by one, sharing an awesome win that we've had the past week. So we start off the call on a very positive note. We all share something that happened in our business that we want to just motivate each other with. And, I love that because it also makes me want to do things during the week to bring to the table. And so that's the first thing. And then we spend 40 minutes. One person is in the hot seat. And we know ahead of time who that person is, and that person prepares with questions, and sometimes we go on a website and we check something out, and that person just asks for help or an honest opinion on something or advice, and we are there. Everybody else who's not in the hot seat, we're there to give brutally honest advice or an opinion or thoughts to that person, because when it's our turn in the hot seat, we know that we're going to get brutally honest advice and help from that person. And that's so valuable because, we get so involved in our own projects, we sometimes have a hard time seeing what it's like from the outside. And to have multiple people tell us and sometimes agree and sometimes disagree, which is good because you want to have these discussions and see what it's like on the outside. You will then be able to know where to go and move forward with. And of course, once you talk about those things, you're going to take action because you don't want to let everybody down and have wasted their time talking about those things. And then we complete the call, typically 5 minutes at the end, going one by one into what do we want to accomplish by the end of next week. So again, we hold each other accountable. We have Facebook groups or email group or email lists where we're all connected to each other. So if somebody finds a really cool resource or has a quick question, they send it out. Somebody answers. It's always and I love everybody in my mastermind groups. I trust them and I go to them for help and I seek that help. I'm not afraid to ask questions, and that was a thing that I learned quickly up front how valuable it is. It's a skill called asking questions. I always tried to do everything on my own. I thought I was Superman, or I thought, I don't know if it's just because I'm a dude and dudes don't ask for directions, when we're lost. We feel like we have to figure it out on our own, but there's nothing better than just asking somebody who you trust, who knows, who has got your back because you've got theirs, and they can point you to the right direction or just give you a quick answer. And then you can just move forward and continue with what you need to do. So that's been incredibly helpful, and I recommend everybody get into a mastermind group, whether it's an existing group that you can get into or 2 of the groups that I'm in, we started on our own. because it's just we found people who share the same values, and we're all not in the same niche. We all do online business, but we are all in different niches, from a magician to Cliff Ravenscraft is in one of mine, from Podcasting Instrument, to someone in the finance industry. Just it's all over. It's a biology blogger. It's just all kinds of stuff, and we all learn from each other's niches. It's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, you just kind of have to feel around and see who. I mean, just be involved a little bit. Obviously, leave comments, and even just asking, again, just being like, hey, who here is interested in a mastermind group? I mean, you can ask that anywhere, in a forum or on Twitter or something, or just like you're doing with me now. Just, hey, do you know anybody who might want to join up with me? And sometimes the answer will be no, sometimes it'll be yes.
Yeah, you're right.
So I mean, you already know that's what to do. It's just a matter of being persistent, and also just being at that right moment in time when somebody else is there and who's like, yeah, let's do it.
I have to do it. Everybody, hands down, everybody I talk to do it. You have to have a group. You have to be accountable. You have to have a mastermind. You can't do it alone. You just need somebody to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah, I mean, where most people find their groups is in person. They go to conferences, they meet people, they shake hands, they have a drink, and you just find who you resonate with and be like, hey, we should continue this off the conference and continue this conversation online. And what if we do this every week? And that's how it starts a lot of times.
Snowball. Love it.
Yep.
How about physical? You were working out there, you were running for a while. The advantages of being physically in shape. What are your thoughts there to get more stuff done?
A lot of people ask me for productivity advice.
Yes.
And things like that. And my number one answer, which actually aligns with Richard Branson's answer, is to exercise and eat well. Because you need a clear mind, you need a creative mind, you need to have energy in order to do the things you need to do to be successful online. I mean, if you're unhealthy, or if you find yourself you're always tired, or you're just not in the right mindset to get things done, then you're not going to get things done. It's just not going to magically happen. So you need to make the thing that produces all this stuff, your body, work at its peak performance level. And so exercise. I mean, I'm not saying you got to go crazy and join a CrossFit club or whatever. But I've been taking care of myself and doing what I could, and I found that when I stop taking care of myself, I get sick and I don't have the right mindset, and I get lethargic, and I just don't have the energy to do what I want to do or what I know needs to be done. I don't. Sometimes when I don't take care of myself, I don't want to do anything, even though I know it should, or those things need to get done. So. I've been eating much better lately over the past couple of years, and exercising. I did my first half marathon last August, which I'm very proud of. And
congratulations!
Thank you. Awesome. And I'm signing up for the Rock and Roll Marathon here in San Diego, which happens in June, to keep me moving forward. Because I found that I need that. I need to sign up and have a specific date where something's going to happen in order to motivate me to get off my butt and do stuff. And I do that with projects in my business, and I'm doing that with my health too. I have to have that, that transition, that transaction of signing up for something in order to be motivated to take action and prepare for it. Much like building a business, it's difficult to do it alone. As far as exercising and eating right, so I always look for other people. And some of these people are in my mastermind group, some of them are not. Some of these people are just people I follow on Instagram, or I read their blogs, for example. It's just any sort of way I can get inspiration to eat better and be healthy is a win. That's why I'm good friends with Lewis Howes. I mean, I'm good friends with him also just because he's an awesome guy. But he's super fit. He's on the Olympic handball team, and I just see his Instagram photos of him just working out and stuff. And I'm just like, oh man, maybe I should go on a run or something, So getting inspiration and help from others, and also when times are tough, calling on those people for help too is very important.
Pat, that's so comforting to hear that even at your level that you still struggle with the simple things, but it's, I know I have to do it, but do I feel like doing it? And it's in the mind, and if your body's not going to keep up with the mind, then it's so comforting to know.
Yeah, I mean, those things never go away. They never go away. It's just a matter of, okay, are you learning how to control it, or are you learning how to deal with it?
Yeah, just keep dialing into it, man. Just keep one foot in front of the other. I love it. One other subject, and we're going to kind of take a detour, but something that it gets back to value. Give. You're known as the guy that gives all this stuff. What happens when you want to start charging and you get pushback? Where is that line? How have you, and I know you've experienced that, people like, what happened to the free stuff? How come this is, how dare you charge me? Tell me about that.
Well, it's interesting, when you give stuff away for free all the time, like I do, there's going to be a certain amount of people who are just, when you start to sell stuff, they're going to think you've either sold out or you're getting greedy, or it's just, they're not comfortable with the idea of you making money anymore because they've been so used to getting things for free. And typically, if you've given enough value over time, there's going to be a little bit of a pushback from those types of people. But at the same time, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be glad that you're selling them something, who are going to be more than happy to pay for something, to pay you back for all the information you've given them. So even though when I came out with Breakthrough Blogging, which was my first paid product, I did get a little bit of a pushback, and there was obviously some wonderful conversation on the comment section of that launch post. That's from those are, I would say, maybe 4 people out of the 20,000 visitors I get every single day who had mentioned something negative. That's 4 people out of the 500 people within the first 3 days of launch who actually purchased Breakthrough Blogging, who have enjoyed it, who have said it has changed their lives. So I can't listen to the negative feedback. Excuse me, let me rephrase that. I can't worry about the negative feedback because there are so many other people I have to worry about that will appreciate this. And yes, you can give stuff away, but you have to build a business too. Yeah, I have to make a living, right? And yes, I make a good amount of money through affiliate marketing. However, I am not in control of that income. That is income that could disappear tomorrow if a lot of those companies were to fold, or they were just like, hey, we're not doing an affiliated program anymore. Well, then I'm screwed. So I have to be able to create products for myself, and that was the Band-Aid I had to rip out eventually, knowing that I was going to get a little bit of a negative pushback. And it's those people who do push back and who say, hey, where's my free stuff? You can say, well, it's not going anywhere. I've just added something additional for people who want to pay. This doesn't affect you at all. And typically it's those people who say those things that have something deeper in their mindset that's having them lash out at you, something beyond your control. So I wouldn't worry about the negative feedback. There's so many more people that you need to worry about who can benefit. And every minute you spend worrying and having a conversation with somebody who's giving you negative feedback or negative criticism, that's a minute that you're taking away from the people who could benefit from what you have to share or who deserve your time instead.
That is so perfect. I want to say, in the words of Gary Vaynerchuk, you jab, baby. You got the right to throw that right hook.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So as we wind down a little bit, tell us about some current projects. Let us know what Pat Flynn's up to so we can come check him out and where to find you.
Well, of course, smartpassiveincome.com is always coming out with new stuff. I've just recently published an update on foodtrucker.com to show people sort of what's been up with that the last 2 months and what we're doing to potentially monetize that site this year. Ask Pat just came out as well, askpat.com, and that's going very well. I am experimenting with publishing on the SoundCloud platform as opposed to Libsyn, which I used to do. And I'm doing this solely because I want to see what it's like and share the results and see if it's better or worse, all for the benefit of the audience. And this year, I'm also coming out with some other blogging resources that are going to be really helpful. I have some videos and stuff that's been really helpful for people, but I want to sort of take it up to the next level just to get people understanding the basics. I mean, I found that a lot of people are able to get set up with their blogs and websites, but then they don't know what to do next. So I'm going to give away some more stuff to help people sort of get started and maybe get their first 100 visitors, for example, or their first 100 subscribers. Get them to reach those small milestones. Again, getting them into those quick wins or quick results so that they can then continue to move forward and grow bigger and faster from there. Just a lot of what I do is also the result of what the audience is saying. So, a lot of what I do this year is going to be determined by what the audience is saying, what they like, what they don't like, and technology is changing so fast. Who knows what's going to happen in 6 months, where somebody might, or there might be a group of people who need help with something new that comes out, or a new way of doing something that's totally radical. Who knows? But I will always be there to make sure to listen and stay up to date on everything and report on everything that happens from my end.
Awesome. So listen, thank you so much, Pat Flynn, for being so generous with your time. We will visit you at smartpassiveincome.com. Again, thanks a lot. And we talk to you very, 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 very soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, James.
You're welcome, Pat. Take care now. All right. I hope you enjoyed our chat today with Mr. Pat Flynn from smartpassiveincome.com. You can find the show notes and the highlights of this interview at bigvaluebigbusiness.com/episode 10. That's 10. Or just go to bigvaluebigbusiness.com and type Pat into the search box for easy access. And while you're on the site, please take a second and leave a comment, either about this interview, about the podcast overall, or tell me what you would like to hear us talk about. Any questions or challenges you may be having with your business, I'd love to be able to find the expert that would have the answers that you need and have them on the podcast. So talk to me over at bigvaluebigbusiness.com. Lastly, I hope we brought some big value into your day. You take care, and I'll be talking to you real soon.
Thanks for listening to the Big Value Big Business Podcast at www.bigvaluebigbusiness.com.